Ray Fisman, Economic Gangsters, Corruption, Violence, and the Poverty of Nations. In Economic Gangsters, Corruption, Violence, and the Poverty of Nations, Ray Fisman delves into the reasons behind the persistent poverty in countries like Kenya, despite fertile land and abundant resources. This book summary unravels the complexities of corruption, civil unrest, and economic challenges these nations face. Diving into the contrasting views of economists Jeffrey Sachs and Bill Easterly, and the role of foreign aid, you will discover how economic gangsterism, corruption at various levels, contributes to the poverty trap. By examining real-life examples, Fisman sheds light on rational decision-making behind seemingly irrational and violent behaviors, providing insights into how we can navigate the complex issue of global poverty.
The Poverty Dilemma. Despite the potential for economic growth in countries like Kenya, poverty remains widespread while others like South Korea and China flourish. Foreign aid has been utilized, but experts disagree on its effectiveness. Columbia University economist Jeffrey Sachs advocates for more foreign aid to end the poverty trap, while New York University economist Bill Easterly argues that it is a waste due to corruption. Easterly suggests that civil governments and stable societies need to come first to build prosperity, and that sending cash to countries like Kenya has not cured poverty. The success stories of India and China, which both rejected foreign aid and implemented free market reforms, seem to support Easterly's arguments. However, effective poverty-fighting programs could help to lift 3 billion people out of poverty, and better access to government data and forensic economic research would be powerful in informing such programs. Corruption and diplomatic parking tickets. This passage explores the correlation between corruption and the behavior of diplomats when it comes to parking violations. It argues that corruption is a cultural behavior deeply rooted in the laws of economics. The passage illustrates how corruption poses a challenge to economic development in poor countries, where significant portions of aid disappear through theft and bribery. The author identifies the causes of corruption and the challenges of ending it, emphasizing the importance of creativity and understanding economic incentives. Poverty and war in Africa. The vicious cycle of poverty and civil unrest in Chad and other sub-Saharan African nations is explored in this book excerpt. Chad's frequent droughts worsen poverty and catalyze violence. The lack of government support and unpredictable rainfall conditions lead to subsistence farming and a lack of emergency savings. Armed conflicts often follow periods of drought, with devastating consequences. This pattern has been observed in other African countries such as Angola, Liberia, Mozambique, Rwanda, Somalia, and Sudan. The lack of crop insurance and food stamps, common in rich nations, further exacerbates poverty and societal instability. Climate change is also expected to significantly worsen droughts and other extreme weather events in this region, making it increasingly difficult for subsistence farmers to make a living. The text stresses that while rich societies generally don't experience civil war, 2/3 of African nations have had armed conflicts since the 1980s. The author argues that scholars and policymakers must undertake innovative, comprehensive approaches to combat the vicious cycle of violence and poverty in sub-Saharan Africa. The dark reality of witch killings in Tanzania. In times of famine, accusations of witchcraft surge in the poorest areas of Africa. Tanzania's Sukuma ethnic group often engage in murder of older women accused of witchcraft. Witch killings double during droughts, with the poorest families being the most affected. Prosecutions for these killings remain rare, and the belief in witches persists, leading to little intervention or protection for accused women. This practice is an economic phenomenon linked to the reality of financial stress during times of crisis. While foreign aid often focuses on long-term investments, it does little to address the short-term triggers of African civil wars and witch killings. However, Ulanga district offers a glimpse of hope, as traditional healers provide shelter and care for accused witches until the famine ends. Kenya's infrastructure mess. In 1990, only a small percentage of Kenya's roads were paved. Despite millions of dollars in construction spending, by 2004, the percentage of paved roads had barely increased, leaving the country with disastrous infrastructure and high rates of traffic fatalities. The root of the problem lies in economic gangsterism and dishonest contractors who steal from the government. Economists suggest that low pay for public officials and contractors, along with inadequate disincentives for corruption, create an environment ripe for theft. Kenya attempted to address the problem by doubling police salaries in 2004, but harsher punishment is also necessary. However, drawing conclusions from policy changes is challenging, as researchers found when they attempted to gauge the impact of the pay increase on police behavior. Fighting economic corruption. Economist researchers call the responses to corruption cheap talk. There's no way to know the accuracy of their answers since there is no control group. However, economist Ben Olken used a unique approach to his study of corruption in Indonesia. Olken gave money to various villages to build roads and told some that their expenses would be audited. Others were instructed to hold meetings to decide how to use the money, while a third group received no special instructions. Olken later dispatched engineers to inspect the roads and determine how much money was spent on them. He found that the threat of an audit was the most effective way to thwart economic gangsters. The villages expecting an audit stole less than 20% of the road money, which is significantly less than the nearly 30% that vanished from the funds of the control group and the villages conducting town hall meetings. Kenyan Village and Poverty Fighting Programs. The Millennium Village Project, advocated by economist Jeffrey Sachs, gave Sori village in Kenya about $1.5 million over 5 years for healthcare, education, and fertilizer. The funds yielded fruitful results, with agricultural production tripling and test scores skyrocketing. However, the methods were not analyzed systematically, and it was uncertain whether the results were due to the financial aid or natural weather oscillations. Thus, the project did not conclusively indicate how to tackle African poverty since there are no simple solutions.
The book, Economic Gangsters, serves as an eye-opener on the multidimensional factors that contribute to the poverty of nations. The summary provides clear insights into the complicated world of corruption, civil unrest, and other challenges faced by developing nations, without simplifying the matter. By examining the role of foreign aid in the journey of countries like China and India towards prosperity, as well as the struggles of Kenya, the book presents a comprehensive guide to understanding the phenomena that keep many nations in poverty. As Fisman brilliantly shows, it takes creativity, ingenuity, and great effort to tackle economic gangsterism and change the fate of millions living in poverty.